The day the CEO called me into his office and told me to fire my own twin sister was the day I realized just how twisted the world of corporate loyalty could be. I remember the way his words hung in the air, cold and sharp, as if he was daring me to flinch. I sat there, my heart pounding, my mind racing, trying to process what he was really asking me to do. My sister and I had always been closer than anyone else in the world. We'd survived everything together, from our parents' divorce to the endless competition of school and life. But now, sitting in that glass-walled office high above the city, I felt like I was being asked to choose between my family and my future. And I had no idea that the truth I was about to uncover would change everything, not just for me, but for the entire company. I'd worked at the company for 6 years, climbing the ladder the hard way. I started in the mailroom, worked my way up through operations, and finally landed a spot as a department manager. My sister joined a year after me, and even though we were twins, we couldn't have been more different at work. She was charming, bold, and always seemed to know how to get what she wanted. I was quieter, more methodical, the one who stayed late to finish the details everyone else missed. People always compared us, but I never minded. I was proud of her, and I thought she was proud of me too. But things started to change when the new CEO took over. He was ruthless, obsessed with numbers, and didn't care about loyalty or history. He wanted results, and he wanted them fast. Rumors started swirling about layoffs and restructuring, and everyone was on edge. My sister and I tried to keep our heads down, but it felt like the walls were closing in. Then, out of nowhere, I got the call to come to his office. I thought maybe I was getting a promotion or at least a new project. Instead, he looked me dead in the eye and said, "I need you to fire your sister today." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I asked him why, and he just shrugged, like it was no big deal. "She's a liability," he said. "She's not a team player. We need to make an example." I tried to argue, tried to defend her, but he cut me off. "If you can't do it, I'll find someone who can. And don't forget, your own job isn't exactly safe." I left his office feeling sick, my hands shaking, my mind spinning with fear and anger. How could he ask me to do something like this? How could he use my own family against me? I went back to my desk and stared at my computer screen, trying to figure out what to do. I knew my sister had made some enemies in the company, but I never thought it would come to this. I thought about calling her, warning her, but I didn't want to make things worse. Instead, I started digging. I pulled up her recent projects, her emails, her expense reports, anything I could find that might explain why the CEO wanted her gone. At first, everything looked normal. She was hitting her targets, her team liked her, and her numbers were solid. But then I noticed something strange. There were a few transactions that didn't add up large sums of money moving between accounts. Invoices that didn't match up, payments to vendors I'd never heard of. My curiosity turned to dread as I dug deeper. The more I looked, the more I realized something was very wrong. There were fake companies, forged signatures, and a trail of money that led straight to my sister's department. I felt my stomach twist as I pieced it all together. My sister wasn't just being targeted, she was hiding something. Something big. I spent the whole night in the office, combing through spreadsheets and emails, following the money wherever it led. By sunrise, I had uncovered a $12 million fraud scheme, all tied back to her. I didn't want to believe it. I wanted to find some other explanation, some way to make it all make sense. But the evidence was overwhelming. My sister, the person I trusted more than anyone, had been stealing from the company for years. I felt betrayed, heartbroken, and furious all at once. I wanted to confront her, to demand answers, but I knew I had to be careful. If I went to her first, she might cover her tracks or run. If I went to the CEO, I might lose her forever. I was trapped, torn between loyalty and justice, between family and the truth. I decided to do the only thing I could. I gathered all the evidence, printed out every document, and went straight to the CEO. I walked into his office, my hands shaking, and laid everything out on his desk. He looked through the files, his expression unreadable. When he finally looked up at me, there was a glint of something like respect in his eyes. "You did the right thing," he said. "This is bigger than I thought." He called in a legal team, the auditors, and HR. Within hours, the whole company was buzzing with rumors. My sister was called into a meeting and watched from behind the glass as they confronted her with the evidence. She denied everything at first, tried to blame other people, tried to twist the story, but the evidence was too strong. Eventually, she broke down and confessed. She said she'd started small, just a few thousand here and there, but it had spiraled out of control. She said she was desperate, that she felt overlooked, that she wanted to prove she was just as good as me. I wanted to feel sorry for her, but all I felt was numb. She had lied to me, used me, and put everything I'd worked for at risk. The fallout was brutal. My sister was fired on the spot, escorted out of the building by security. The company pressed charges, and the story made the news. My family was devastated. My parents blamed me for turning her in, said I should have protected her, said I'd betrayed my own blood. I tried to explain, tried to make them see that I had no choice, but they wouldn't listen. I lost friends, lost sleep, lost the sense of safety I'd always felt with my twin. I felt completely alone, but as the weeks went by, something started to change. People at work started treating me differently. They saw me as someone who stood up for what was right, even when it cost me everything. The CEO called me into his office again, but this time it was to thank me. He said I'd saved the company, that I'd shown real integrity, that I was the kind of leader they needed. He offered me a promotion, a raise, and a chance to rebuild my reputation. I took it, not because I wanted the recognition, but because I needed to prove to myself that I could survive this. I threw myself into my work, determined to make things right. I built a new team, fixed the broken systems, and made sure nothing like this could ever happen again. I worked harder than ever, but this time I wasn't doing it for anyone else. I was doing it for me. I started to heal little by little, day by day. I made new friends, found new mentors, and slowly rebuilt my life from the ground up. My sister went to trial, and the truth came out for everyone to see. She tried to blame the company, tried to blame me, but the evidence was too strong. She was sentenced to prison, and I visited her once just to say goodbye. She cried, begged me to forgive her, said she never meant to hurt me. I told her I loved her, but I couldn't save her from the choices she'd made. I walked out of that prison feeling lighter, like I'd finally let go of the weight I'd been carrying for so long. Now, when I look back on everything that happened, I don't feel anger or regret. I feel proud. I did the right thing, even when it hurt. I stood up for the truth, even when it cost me my family. I proved to myself and to everyone else that I was stronger than I ever knew. And I learned that sometimes the hardest choices are the ones that define who we really are. If you've ever been forced to choose between loyalty and justice, between family and the truth, I want you to know you're not alone. I want you to know that you can survive, that you can rebuild, that you can come out the other side stronger than before. Sometimes doing the right thing means losing everything you thought you needed, but it also means finding out who you really are. That's my story. That's how I turned the worst day of my life into the moment I finally stood up for myself. And if you ever find yourself in the same position, I hope you remember you have the strength to do what's right, no matter what it costs. Because in the end, the truth always comes out, and sometimes that's the only thing that can set you free.